I spent 3 years on a waitlist for a steel Submariner, 3 years of friendly emails from my authorized dealer that did not actually mean anything. Last March, I walked into the Grand Seiko boutique on Madison Avenue, tried on a Snowflake, and walked out wearing one 90 minutes later. No relationship, no purchase history, no quiet conversation about my buying journey, just a watch in a box on my wrist. And that's when I realized everyone has been telling the wrong story about what is actually pressuring Rolex. For 2 years now, the headlines have all said the same thing: China, superclones, the NOOB factory, authentication broken. Rolex's biggest threat is supposedly a warehouse in Guangzhou churning out one-to-one Submariners that even watchmakers cannot tell apart. It is a great story. It just is not the one moving the needle. Because while everyone's been pointing at Shenzhen, Seiko Group quietly posted global watch sales of $1.22 billion for the year ending March 2025, up 11.7%. Grand Seiko's international revenue grew roughly 15% in the same window. Swiss watch exports were down, not collapsing, just down. The buyers leaving Rolex are not running off to buy a clone movement in resold steel. They are running to Tokyo. Here's what doesn't get said on the Swiss side. Spring Drive, the movement Grand Seiko launched in 2004, runs on a mainspring like any mechanical watch, but the escapement is regulated by a quartz oscillator, a tri-synchro regulator system. The new caliber 9 RB2 they introduced last year is rated to plus or minus 20 seconds per year. For context, COSC certification, the Swiss industry standard, allows -4 to +6 seconds per day. Rolex then goes further with their Superlative Chronometer rating, the one they put on the dial, tightening that to plus or minus 2 seconds per day. That's already impressive by Swiss standards. The 9 RB2 beats both. Plus or minus 2 seconds per day works out to roughly 730 seconds per year, and Grand Seiko's 20 seconds per year is approximately 40 times more accurate at less than half the price. And Spring Drive is not the only technical story here. Grand Seiko also makes the high beat 36,000, a purely mechanical movement beating at 36,000 vibrations per hour, faster than most Swiss rivals, using the 9 SA5 caliber with a dual impulse escapement that Grand Seiko developed entirely in-house. The High Beat and the Spring Drive sit side by side in the Evolution 9 collection, which is the design language Grand Seiko has been building out over the last few years. One movement for people who want quartz accuracy with mechanical soul, one for people who want nothing but steel and springs. Different answers to the same question. Then there is the finishing. Zaratsu polishing, hand-polished mirror surfaces done by craftsmen at the Shinshu Watch Studio in Suwa, who train for years before they are allowed to touch a production case. A $6,000 Grand Seiko has finishing that genuinely competes with $15,000 Swiss pieces. It is the kind of detail that is invisible in photos and impossible to ignore in person. Hold on though, none of this means Rolex is in trouble. They are going to sell another 10 billion francs of watches this year. Nobody at Geneva is panicking. Whatever your relationship to Rolex is, whether you own one, want one, or rolled your eyes at this entire video, the shift is not really about Rolex collapsing. It is about what happens when the people buying these things stop being scared of missing out. Because that fear was the entire engine. The wait lists, the gray market premiums, the right relationship with your authorized dealer, all of it ran on the assumption that scarcity equals value, and missing the steel Daytona this year meant being locked out forever. That fear is what made an Explorer worth more than its retail price. And that fear is exactly what people are quietly walking away from. Even Tudor, Rolex's own sibling brand, has spent years positioning itself as the sensible alternative, but now Grand Seiko is competing for that same buyer and doing it on technical terms, not just price. The receipts back it up. The Snowflake reference SBGA 211 traded around $4,200 on the secondary market in early 2024, according to Chrono24 and Watch Charts data. Today, it is clearing $5,500. At Watches and Wonders this past April, Grand Seiko launched the Ushio Diver, 40.8mm, titanium, spring drive UFA movement, $12,400, part of the Evolution 9 collection. They sized it almost identically to a Submariner and priced it above $1. That is not a brand sneaking into the room. That is a brand declaring itself a peer. And if you want proof that Grand Seiko can play at the top of the market entirely on its own terms, look at the Kodo Constant Force Tourbillon, a piece they showed at $300,000 plus, built entirely in Hsinchu. It exists to prove that everything underneath it is made by a company that knows exactly what it is doing. Rolex pushed the steel Submariner to $10,800 this January. The Oyster Perpetual, the entry point most people compare against Grand Seiko's lower tier, sits around $6,000. The retail gap that used to make Grand Seiko the so-called sensible alternative barely exists anymore. And the Ushio is now priced above a Submariner entirely. The Snowflake is still on my wrist. The seconds hand glides, no tick, and it moves like a shadow across the dial. My authorized dealer finally called about that Submariner last month, 3 years and change after I put my name down. I let it go to voicemail.